yourself a cold one.
They strike 'em, huh?
And listen to Ross Tucker break down the top college prospects on another tasty edition of The College Draft.
Yeah, it's Daddy Soda time here on the College Draft Podcast, presented, of course, by DraftKings. I'm Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman, 5 teams, 7 years. Most of you know that. Hopefully, most of you check me out on social media, whatever platform you're on. I'm at Ross Tucker NFL, and we are at Ross Tucker Pod. You can always check out the show on the DK Network, as well as youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. We do the same thing in season every week here on the College Draft Podcast. Number one, we review Emory's bets from the week before in college football, as well as what jumped out to him from a scouting standpoint, from a talent standpoint, what we saw, what we took away, and then, of course, we will dive into the next week's slate, week 4 in college football, talking about the biggest games, the best players, and Emory giving you his picks against the spread. Emory was 2-3 last week, and which makes him 10-7 for the season. Emory, there's a lot to get to. When I talk about Emory, of course, I'm talking about the star of CBS Sports HQ, as well as someone you should follow on social media at FBall Game Plan on Twitter, Football Game Plan on YouTube, footballgameplan.com/2025 draft guide. Speaking, Emory, of that draft guide, before we even get into any of the college stuff, man, every time Braylon Allen makes a play, I got a big smile on my face. This is an interesting one to me because there's a lot of people, more than one I talked to, that really did not think he was very good. They were not Braylon Allen fans. I guess they didn't think he had vision. They didn't think he had any ability to make people miss. We're not very high on him as a prospect. You, here on the show, said that he was your RB1 going into the draft. Now, there was a bunch of running backs that went before him. I don't know how many. We'd have to go back and count. There was a bunch of running backs that were drafted before Braylon Allen for sure. But so far, it's good. He's catching passes for touchdowns. He's obviously running for touchdowns. We always knew he was strong. He's got a burst. I mean, he's got a really nice size-speed combo. And as everybody knows, he's still only 20.
And that's the part that really a lot of folks I felt like just slept on. We talked about it when he got into college, how young he was. And yes, he's still a young player. And you saw him at Wisconsin, at least last season, the patience, the footwork, the ability to set up his blockers, all of that is starting to manifest itself out there for the Jets. And when you talk about his catching ability, again, just because you weren't asked to do something in college doesn't mean you can't do it. And I'm glad we're seeing him be able to do at least the meets expectations part of the passing game, which allows them to keep, their starting tailback Breece Hall fresh out there and allow him to do his thing at an elite level. And Braylon Allen, along with my RB3 in Isaiah Davis, is out there. So I've been a big fan of the Jets backfield and how they drafted. I was worried about how they were going to utilize these guys, and we're seeing them utilize them to perfection.
Very impressive. I mean, Breece Hall, that catch he made in the end zone.
Oh, that was great.
He is. I mean, I thought it was a receiver. I was like, who is that receiver? I'm like, oh, it's a running back. It's Breece Hall.
I wish more receivers learn to do what Breece Hall did. Stop playing for the flag and just go for the catch. And if the flag happens, it happens. But go up and try to get the football and stop just playing for a pass interference call. Breece Hall did it perfectly.
Very, very well. No question. All right. So last week, and by the way, we have a little bit of a controversy here on the show. You don't even know about this, Emory. You were 2-0. Okay. I got a text message Saturday afternoon from our producer, Jack O'Connell. All right. And he said, "Did I just say O'Connell? Whatever. Jack Connell." More like 0 for 3 after Jack sent me this text. Jack sends me a text Saturday afternoon. Hey, just FYI, Emory's about to go 3-0 in his college draft bets. Guess what happened after that, Emory? You didn't even get to 3-0 at all.
Nope.
He jinxed you on whatever that game was, and then you lost the last two. So this is coming from someone that obviously has never had to make picks or bets in their life and doesn't realize that you never do that.
Right.
You never do that, Jack Connell, the producer. Is Jack even there? Does he have anything to say for himself? I don't know. Actually, we're probably not able to have 3 people talk at a time. But just absolutely brutal. So anyway, you had UNLV +7, and our guy, the slippery Sluka. By the way, he's not a pro quarterback. I mean, he just doesn't throw it well enough. I love him. He just doesn't throw it well enough or consistently enough. He's the type of guy that should just have gone, program to program, getting NIL every year as a really good college quarterback. But you had UNLV +7. They beat Kansas 23-20. They have 2 Big 12 wins now. And not just Big 12 wins. Like, they smashed Houston, and they won at Kansas, too. It's impressive. You also hit on Boston College +16. They were right there with Mizzou. They ended up losing 27-21, Emory.
Yeah, and that's the thing. UNLV knocked off 2, preseason trendy picks to win the Big 12, and they did a great job. And I don't want to see people knock them as we move on throughout the season and say, "Oh, they're not good." Like, nah, they're Big 12 teams, Power 5 opponents, or Power 4 opponents. They beat them, and that counts for something. And in terms of Boston College, they could have won that game outright. They lost that game the last 5 minutes in the second quarter. They had a 14-3 lead and ended up going to the halftime 17-14 down 3 because of the turnovers. They were playing efficient football, and they just couldn't get back on track once they started to turn the ball over. So BC had a chance to really put the ACC on the map with a landmark win over 6th-ranked Missouri, and they dropped the ball, figuratively and literally.
Yeah, that would have been a huge win for BC, and they were right there. The ones you missed on, you had Texas State +1.5 against Arizona State. They lost 31-28. That was probably the one that Jack jinxed you on. Then you had Washington -4.5. They actually lost the game outright to Washington State. Wow. 24-19. That's a big drop-off from Washington last year to this year. And then you had UCLA +3. Now, I was doing Colorado State, so I didn't get a chance to watch UCLA, Indiana. That score really surprised me, Emory. 42-13? UCLA gave up 42 points to Indiana? I mean, tip of the cap to Kurt Cignetti, the former JMU coach. He must have figured out something at Indiana. That was I was looking at the scores during a TV timeout. I was like, wait, what? That I was not expecting.
Well, let's start with that one first. Indiana has the top CFL quarterback prospect in Curtis Rourke, who played a very good game against UCLA, and it's the Indiana Dukes, because half that team came from JMU, which tells you how good JMU was last year. I was shocked to see UCLA coming off that bye, that extended break from the Hawaii game, and look flat. So shout out to Indiana. It was the Washington game that had me want to get a running start and drop kick all the TVs at CBS Sports HQ because of the last play of the game, Ross. They ran a short side option to the short side of the field. Like, what are we doing? You gave the running back no chance to do anything to try to score a game-winning touchdown, or a game-tying touchdown. It was. So it was like, that was just a bad play call. And then the Texas State game, that was Thursday night. I'm in studio. Brian McFadden, our colleague at CBS, also was and Hakeem Dermish was also looking at the game with me, and they were like, "Oh, there's no way," or Joe Musa, they was like, "Oh, there's no way Arizona State loses this game." And Texas State started out, I think, 21-7. I was like, "Say y'all sorry, apologize right now." And so we went and did the Thursday night pregame, and then come next thing you know, I'm like, "Wait a minute, this score tied at halftime," and then uncharacteristically, Texas State starts to turn the ball over on the last two series. I was like, they were going for the win, and they turned the ball over, which was uncharacteristic, but could have put the Sun Belt Conference like in the forefront with a big win against the Power Four conference, but they also dropped the ball in the end.
Speaking, Emory, of that Colorado State game I called, I was in Boulder for their practice on Wednesday. It's wild. I mean, Travis Hunter wears a gray jersey. So the guys on offense wear white jerseys. The guys on defense wear black jerseys. Travis Hunter's out there with a gray jersey so he can go on either side, which is really cool, really impressive to see. And then watching them Saturday night, not only in practice, but then watching them Saturday night, I said this during the game. He's definitely one of the top 3 receivers in college football, let's say. He's definitely one of the top 3 corners in college football, let's say. He plays almost every snap at a Power 4 school. If he does, I asked Deion Sanders this. I said, how does he not win the Heisman? And Deion said, the only way he doesn't win the Heisman is because I'm his coach. He said he's clearly the best player. I mean, I think what's so fascinating, Emory, is what happens for him at the next level. I think you put him at corner and then you have a package for him on offense, almost like your number 3 receiver. Because Deion made the point, Emory, it's going to be pretty hard if you only have him on offense and then you're looking out there and your second corner or your nickel corner is getting beat or your fourth corner or whatever is getting beat, and you have a guy better than him just sitting there. Or let's say you have him as a corner, and then you go to a 3 or 4 wide receiver package, and you got receivers out there that aren't as good. He's like, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to have a guy that you know is better sitting there, and you're not using him.
Yeah, and what a great question and thought, because I'm with you. I feel like starting at corner with those ball skills is already an asset for a defense. You help neutralize the numbers on that side of the ball, because now offenses have evened out the numbers with the mobile quarterback. Well, you put a guy out there at corner that has equal or better chance to catch the football than your receiver. Now you got the numbers advantage back in your favor. And I was talking with Brian McFadden in the green room, because obviously he played in the NFL at corner, and he was like, he would use him as receiver. He's like, man, it's hard to play both sides of the ball because of the package that you would have to, like the studying you have to do for one side to try to do it for both sides. I was like, well, listen, if you're playing corner, I feel like it's easier for him to be a package player as a receiver, but I can't take him off the field at corner because of his ability with the ball and then the ball skills. You touched on it perfectly in the doggone game, Ross, when you said he ran the route better than the receiver did and picked the ball off. That's exactly why you leave him at corner, because he has receiver-like ability, skills, understands concepts. That's why I feel like he's best at corner and can have a package at receiver, as opposed to being a receiver where you could get neutralized based off the offensive line protection, quarterback accuracy, all the stuff that can happen before you even get the football. But on defense, they will literally avoid you. Thus, you're playing 11 on 10.
I also came away really impressed by Shedeur Sanders. Really impressed. I mean, he had maybe 2 or 3 misses in the game, but even when he's off platform, he makes some really impressive throws. I mean, he is very, very accurate, quick release. When his offensive line gives him some time, like they did the other night, he's deadly. Everybody's afraid to play their receivers man-to-man, so they play zone, but he's too smart and too accurate, and they have 4 legit receivers. You play zone, and you let him just take his time and pat. You don't want to play man because you don't want to get beat deep. Well, then you play zone, and it's like, well, he's going to get, if he has time, he's going to throw an accurate pass to one of those guys, and they're going to be open. I was impressed, and I thought watching the Nebraska game live that he held on to the ball too long, but then I watched the tape, and he didn't have a chance on some of those. I mean, there's still some times I think he could set his feet a little bit better. I still think there's some times where maybe he leaves the pocket a little premature, but that might be like PTSD from how many hits he's taken or whatever. But he's impressive. Maybe as impressive as drinking Labatt Blue Light with friends and living life to the power of we. Always enjoy responsibly beer. Labatt USA, Buffalo, New York. You've already talked a lot about Shedeur Sanders. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add.
Yeah, just
Emory?
quickly is the like, and this is because you saw people with their hate for Shedeur Sanders because they don't like Coach Prime, right? But my thing is this: if you take Shedeur Sanders and put him on Georgia, they blow out Kentucky, or they just continue to blow out teams, right? And the offense looks a lot better. You put Carson Beck on Colorado, do they even win a game? And that's the difference in what we're seeing from a guy that's playing above the X's and O's as opposed to a guy that's fitting in. And so when we say Shedeur Sanders is an elite quarterback, a first-round quarterback, it's coming from a place of on-field excellence and just talking ball. Anything outside of that, you're getting your feelings involved and you're being a little bit too emotional like Carl Thomas. That's all I got to say.
So it's interesting because just doing that game, I never experienced anything like it. Like I could send you some texts, some screenshots.
Mm-hmm.
There is no in between on Colorado. People either really, really like them, like love them, or hate them. The whole first half, all I saw was, will you stop kissing up? Will you stop kissing Coach Prime's butt? At least those Sanders, the checks you're getting from the Sanders to talk them up will cash. And then late in the game, I did not agree with their decision to keep throwing the ball. And I don't know if it's because they hate Colorado State and Colorado State was talking trash. They're trying to rub it in. They're trying to run the score up, which is whatever. That's happened before. Or if they're just trying to get more stats for Shedeur and Travis Hunter, which is whatever. Both those things, like, people have done before. I would just argue it's not worth the risk of one of those guys getting hurt. Like, it's not worth the risk of doing that. I think it's a poor decision. But then I had all these posts, you're such a Coach Prime hater, you hate Coach Prime. So I literally have posts from the same game where I'm a butt kisser and a whatever. So that's how you know you're doing it right, I think, Emory.
Right. And my whole thing was, man, the freshman running back was running his butt off. Like, let him stack up some stats, and hopefully they don't forget that next week. Like, keep running the football. It works.
All right, let's get into the bets this week, which is why a lot of people come to get Emory's bets in the hunt, which is presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. USC's at Michigan. USC is laying 5.5, Emory.
Yeah, this is one of those games when it looked a lot better on paper before the season. Like, oh, you got Michigan, USC, blah, 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 Big Ten, Pac-12, the merge, da, 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 da. Now we look at this like, hey, man, USC about to smoke these dudes. You know what I'm saying? Like, because of the offense of Michigan, I think that's the issue. Defensively, that Michigan defense, especially the secondary led by, Johnson and Page, Makari Page, the safety that can blitz off the edge, two elite talents. But the problem is, can we trust their offense? Can they get into a back and forth game if USC's offense starts to get rolling? And we know it will because Miller Moss proved against LSU that he's not afraid of pressure. He doesn't mind working the intermediate level of the field. He will take a tight window throw. I thought that showed itself, greatly against LSU's defense, which was improved. And so I like this game to be heavily handed toward USC. I'm not going to say they're going to get blown out like Texas blew them out, but it's going to look a lot like that where at some point the offense for Michigan will continue to sputter and hold them back, and USC will just pull away. So I'm laying these points with USC.
Yeah, Michigan, they're going to have to just try to run the rock. I mean, they are limited throwing the football. All right, what about Rutgers? So you're going to lay the 5.5 with USC. Then we've got Rutgers. You think Milren Moss? You said this before, though. You were high on him coming into the season. You think he's a pro, right?
I think so, and I feel like when I thought he outplayed Garrett Nussmeier because he was making throws deeper down the field and he was protecting the football. He was standing there in the pocket, staring down the gun barrel, totally unafraid of pressure in the moment. You felt like when he got the ball last that they were going to drive down and get points. To me, the ancillary things, the mental makeup, the physical toughness, all the mental toughness, that is what I look at more so than anything else physical for a quarterback, because that's the NFL game. You got to be able to make those tight window throws and play above the situation, which he does. So, yeah, I was a big fan, which is why I also thought USC was a dark horse Big Ten title contender because of the improved defense with D'Anton Lynn, what we saw from Miller Moss in that bowl game, and the speed and talent they have in the backfield and also at receiver.
Rutgers is at Virginia Tech, and Virginia Tech's laying 3.5, Emory.
This is a tough game, man, because you have a Greg Schiano defense, another defensive back, Eric Rogers. Listen, sight unseen, Rutgers defensive backs, I'm all in. Rogers is awesome. Long corner, press guy, turns the ball over, sign me up 10 times out of 10, right? And they're going to face a passing game that's going to try to spread you out, but also be physical with the run game. And their quarterback in Kyron Drones is a big part of that. I love how he played the back end of that Virginia Tech Vandy game, in which they lost. They got upset, but he brought them back. He had some great throws down the field, some good deep throws. You saw last week against Old Dominion, his ability to run the football, be a +1 in the run game. So this is going to be a unique challenge for Virginia Tech and also for Rutgers. I don't know if I can trust Rutgers offensively just yet. And this hook is really scaring me. But I'm a trust in Virginia Tech and Coach Brent Pry. I'm a big fan of him and his staff and what he does out there and coaching those guys up. I'm going to lay the 3.5 with Virginia Tech here.
Ooh, man. I would never lay 3.5. Anybody that listens to the Even Money Betting podcast, and it might work out for you, but I take teams getting 3.5 all the time on the NFL level. Because my whole thing is this: if the spread's 3.5, they're telling you like it's a really close game, could go either way. Well, I'm not getting beat on a field goal. Like I'm not. That's always my philosophy. But all right, I got you down, Emory. Virginia Tech minus the 3.5. What about this game? I'm looking forward to this. Utah at Oklahoma State.
Well, we were watching this game in the green room, and it was like, I can't believe like genetics was genetics sing with Wilson's younger brother. It was Isaac Wilson. It was like, man, this dude looks exact, even from when he was holding this pass like this after the game, like everything he does looks like his brother. And he came in there and played really well in place of Cam Rising. But man, Oklahoma State, Ross, and this is why I was big on Oklahoma State, because the game they played against Tulsa is usually the game they lose, right? Because they're coming off of a big win. Everybody's high, and they're probably overlooking the next opponent, and then they go out there and lay an egg versus a team like Tulsa. Well, they hit the ground running against Tulsa from start to finish. So that told me this is a different Oklahoma State team. I'm laying these points with the Cowboys. I think they do take care of business. Again, you're getting a game where you're probably going to be playing against Zach Wilson, against Isaac Wilson, and maybe not Cam Rising. Either way, I like the way the Cowboys are playing. And Obi Azigbo is tremendous, like coming off the edge. I think he has like 3 sacks or so already. So one of these terrific pass rushers they got. I like them to be sound versus a run. They're good along the defensive line, interior and exterior. And I just think Oklahoma State gets it done. Shout out to Zach Bowman, Alan Bowman, the quarterback for Oklahoma State, who did a fantastic job against Tulsa. Yes, it's Tulsa, but this is another game for Oklahoma State, I think, to really put themselves on the national radar. Like, take these guys seriously, because this is a really good football team. 20 returning starters is showing out there on the field.
All right, last game. We got Tennessee at Oklahoma. Tennessee's laying 8, Emory.
Welcome to college football, Tennessee. Now you get the chance to play a real opponent. And so I like the fact that Tennessee has worked out the kinks in terms of their passing game and offense. So they got not really kinks. They've been awesome, but they're playing now they're playing a real opponent with really good defense. 8 points seems like a lot, although this offense for Oklahoma, I don't trust. So Tennessee right here could be in a good spot for this big SEC matchup. So I'm going to lay the points with Tennessee here. I think the Volunteers with a tougher schedule, this is the game that they're going to showcase, hey, we're not just a standard air raid team. We got some defense too. And it's going to be a lower scoring game. So I would also lean under, but I'm going to lay these points with Tennessee. I think the offense, Iamaleava is better than Jackson Arnold, and their passing game looks cohesive, like he's been there for 5 years. I like Tennessee here.
The keg is kicked. We are all tapped out.
Thanks for tuning in to College Draft. Make sure to also check out the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, Even Money, and Fantasy Feast, all on the DraftKings Network, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.